announcement. Bon après-midi tout le monde et bienvenue à cette annonce. This morning's speakers will speak in the following order. Premier Susan Holt, Minister of Natural Resources John Herron, and Minister of Indigenous Affairs Keith Chiasson. Les porte-paroles aujourd'hui sont dans l'ordre suivant. La Première ministre du Nouveau-Brunswick, Susan Holt, le ministre des Ressources naturelles, John Herron, et le ministre des Affaires autochtones, Keith Chiasson. Avant de céder la parole à la Première ministre, veuillez vous assurer de désactiver le son de vos micros. Before I turn things over to the Premier, I would ask everyone to put their microphones on mute. Premier?
I've been in all corners of the province over these past few months, and I'm hearing the same thing from you. New Brunswickers are facing big challenges in their energy prices, grocery prices, the cost of gas. They're having difficulty making ends meet, and they're feeling the uncertainty of the state of the world around us. We're proud of what we've been able to accomplish over these past 20 months so far into our mandate to make life more affordable. Things like a 3% rent cap and stabilizing your property taxes, free breakfast and affordable school lunch starting this September for families struggling with the price of groceries, taking 10% off your power bill each and every month, and more. Our government is looking at every opportunity to bring down costs and make your life more affordable. Nous sommes fiers de ce que nous avons accompli 20 mois après le début de notre mandat pour rendre votre vie plus abordable. Nous avons notamment plafonné les augmentations de loyer à 3%. Nous avons stabilisé les impôts fonciers. Nous avons offert un déjeuner gratuit et un dîner scolaire abordable dans les écoles dès 7 septembre pour les familles qui ont de la difficulté à payer leur épicerie. On a réduit vos factures d'électricité de 10% chaque mois et plus. Et nous continuons d'examiner toutes les possibilités de réduire les coûts et rendre votre vie plus abordable. It's not only New Brunswickers who are feeling the pressure. Our entrepreneurs and businesses are feeling the pressure as well. Just this past weekend, we saw the reality of what Trump's chaotic approach to tariffs and how it's impacting our province. I have said it a few times already, and I will say it again. We won't back down to a bully, and we will continue to defend New Brunswickers and Canadians in this trade war. Ces nouveaux tarifs douaniers imposés par Trump toucheront 112 millions de dollars d'exportation du Nouveau-Brunswick. Ce chiffre peut-être semble relativement petit, mais il ne raconte pas toute l'histoire. Depuis l'annonce des premiers tarifs l'an dernier, 2 ans dernier, les entreprises nous ont dit que cette incertitude les avait poussées à revoir leurs investissements, à mettre leur plan d'embauche de nouveaux employés sur pause, leur projet de croissance sur pause. Nous voyons les effets de cette situation dans nos prévisions de croissance, dans nos revenus et dans ce que nous entendons sur le terrain. We see the impact of Trump's tariff threats for these past 2 years in our growth forecasts, in our revenues, and in how New Brunswickers are feeling on the ground. The events of these past few days have only strengthened my belief that we must look at opportunities here at home. New Brunswickers have shown fierce loyalty to our province and to our local businesses. And now, more than ever, we need to double down. As trade with our closest neighbor is thrown into question yet again, now is the time to secure our autonomy and protect our sovereignty. We are looking at all the options that can bring economic stability and independence to our province so that entrepreneurs can invest in growing their businesses and so that they can create good-paying jobs for New Brunswickers. Le Nouveau-Brunswick possède ce que le monde recherche. Nous voyons déjà les possibilités de croissance dans des projets qui avancent bien, notamment notre stratégie sur les minéraux critiques, le développement de possibilités commerciales, la croissance dans notre aquaculture, le développement à nos ports et la croissance aussi dans notre secteur de défense. But as your government, we have a responsibility to leave no stone unturned, to evaluate each opportunity that could strengthen our economy, that could fund our healthcare system, that could help you pay the bills and support your family's future. New Brunswick has what the world wants. We are seeing that in projects that are well underway, like our critical minerals strategy, like the growth in our seafood sector, the development of new trade opportunities through our ports, and the growth in our defense sector. We're also asking some big questions about energy. What is the best way to tackle what we know is a pending energy shortage due to rising demand from New Brunswickers, from New Brunswick businesses, and from our neighbors over the next few years? What is New Brunswick's role in supporting Canada's push to become an energy superpower? Today, New Brunswick is dependent on the US for natural gas. Should this continue? Can we play a role in delivering on requests for natural gas from other provinces and from our European allies? How do we manage a deficit in our healthcare system to deliver the care New Brunswickers deserve, and our fiscal deficit, where today's revenues do not match tomorrow's services, do not cover tomorrow's services? Today, we're here to share that we're embarking on a 5-month public review of the development of our resources and the potential role that natural gas plays in New Brunswick. I want to reassure New Brunswickers that we aren't starting this conversation lightly. We've been in preliminary discussions with First Nations leaders in the province, and we know that this can only happen in collaboration with their leadership and communities. This is, in fact, the start of a conversation, one that we want to have with you. This announcement today opens up that conversation as we launch a holistic review of the conditions of the current moratorium. Alors, entrons-nous dans un petit peu plus de détails. L'examen reposera sur 5 grands piliers qui sont présentés sur le diapositive derrière moi. Je vais passer brièvement en revue de chacun des piliers, puis mes collègues vous donneront un petit peu plus de détails. The pillar number 1 is First Nations. All of this work will be done in close partnership with First Nations leaders and communities. We know that past governments have failed and fallen on this point. We are taking a different approach. Our government believes that we must have meaningful collaboration with First Nations partners and understand the risks and rewards as they see them. Pillar number 2, the resource. In order to decide if additional development is worth it, if the juice is worth the squeeze, we need to know what we're working with. We'll be evaluating our resource, looking at how much potential natural gas there is under our feet, whether it can be extracted safely and efficiently, and whether that is accessible and economic. Pillar number 3, science, technology, and the environment. We will be assessing current science, new technology, and the environmental impacts so that we can figure out whether the latest methods for developing natural gas can be done safely or not. We'll undertake a thorough review of any potential impacts on water, air, on public health, and on the environment and complete ecosystem. Pillar number 4, the economics. We'll look at the benefits, at what benefits New Brunswickers might see. We'll explore new royalty models, how many jobs could be expected, what capital investment could be made, and we'll seek ways to establish maximum value proposition for New Brunswickers. Le 5e pilier, l'appui du public. Nous allons faire le travail nécessaire pour savoir si vous et vos voisins appuyez un développement responsable du gaz naturel et si vous avez confiance en notre capacité à le faire correctement. Pour réaliser tout ce travail, nous allons mettre sur pied des groupes de travail qui réuniront des experts de différents secteurs du gouvernement, ainsi que des experts des Premières Nations, du milieu universitaire et collège, des groupes de défense des intérêts et d'autres intervenants, et du monde du milieu des affaires et du grand public. This is not a green light to start getting drills in the ground. This is a deliberate, 5-month-long dialogue with many partners in our province and with you as New Brunswickers to determine whether this is something we want to move forward with together. We'll be showing you our work. We want you to be a part of that process. I'm going to hand it off to Minister Herron to go through some more details.
Thank you, Premier. It's been 12 years since the moratorium was put in place, and we know that science and technology of natural gas development has changed a lot. A significant part of this review will be doing the work to make sure we have a thorough understanding of what methods and tools could be used in New Brunswick-specific geology. Cela fait 12 ans que le moratoire a été mis en place et nous savons que la science et la technologie pour le développement du gaz naturel ont beaucoup évolué. Une grande partie de cet examen consistera à mener les travaux nécessaires pour nous assurer de bien comprendre quelle méthode et quels outils pourraient être utilisés compte tenu de la géologie spécifique du Nouveau-Brunswick. With respect to environmental impacts of this potential development, I will say loud and clear, if we can't be certain that this can be done safely, it won't be done at all. Our government is deeply committed to our responsibility to develop resources the right way, with the strongest environmental standards. En ce qui concerne les impacts environnementaux de ce développement potentiel, je vais le dire haut et fort. Si nous ne pouvons pas être certains que cela peut être fait de manière sécuritaire, cela ne sera tout simplement pas réalisé. Notre gouvernement est profondément engagé à respecter sa responsabilité de développer les ressources de la bonne manière avec les normes environnementales les plus strictes. We know that other provinces have been developing these resources for many years. In order to build on the environmental work we have been able to do thus far, like undertaking reviews to strengthen the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, and increasing the amount of conserved land in the province, we need to ensure that this can be done safely and responsibly here. There is natural gas being safely extracted today in the province that came as a carve-out from the moratorium. It's being produced in the McCully Field area near Sussex or Penobscot. Gas is also known to exist in the Stony Creek and Hillsborough area. We will examine the data from these sites as part of this review. Experts estimate that there is approximately 60 trillion cubic feet of gas in the McCully Field area and an additional 12 trillion cubic feet in the Stony Creek or Hillsborough area. We know New Brunswickers need to know what kind of benefit we could expect from this development. How much would it help us to fund what we all need, like collaborative healthcare clinics in your communities, or better healthcare access, or help in paying the bills? Our team will review, look at numbers for royalties, for jobs, for capital investment to figure out whether natural gas could support our province's future. Having worked with this DNR team through the last year's wildfires and the development of our comprehensive mineral strategy that is already seeing results like the sale of the Caribou mine to Canadian Copper, I know that the team at DNR have what it takes to do this review well. This kind of decision-making process needs more than just our team at DNR. We will consult with academics, public health experts, environmental advocates, economists, business groups, local officials, and more. Our colleagues at Energy, Environment, and Health are going to be involved along the way. And of course, the team at Indigenous Affairs are critical. So on that note, I'll pass things over to Minister Keith Chiasson.
Thanks, Minister Herron. Nous avons été clairs depuis le premier jour que le rétablissement des relations avec les communautés autochtones était une priorité pour notre gouvernement. Ce qui s'est notamment traduit par le renouvellement des ententes de partage des revenus et par un partenariat renouvelé avec les chefs des Premières Nations. Alors que nous examinons les possibilités et les défis qui nous attendent, nous savons que la voie à suivre doit reposer sur des relations solides et respectueuses de gouvernement à gouvernement. As we look at the opportunities and challenges ahead, we know that the path forward must be built on strong, respectful relationships with First Nations. We have an open and ongoing dialogue in a government-to-government relationship with First Nations leadership, which has supported our commitment to undergo this review process. We have always believed that meaningful engagement means coming to the table early, listening carefully, and working together toward shared goals. Nos rencontres régulières avec les chefs et les organisations autochtones témoignent de cet engagement. Récemment, la première ministre et les ministres ont rencontré les chefs pour une discussion ouverte et constructive sur les possibilités liées à l'énergie dans notre province. Recently, the Premier and ministers have met with the chiefs for a broad and constructive conversation about energy opportunities in our province. Currently, our government is exploring the role natural gas could play in the province's future as part of a broader discussion on affordability, energy security, and economic development. Le partenariat qui prend part au processus d'examen ne constitue ni d'une approbation, ni d'un engagement, mais offre plutôt l'occasion de travailler ensemble afin d'examiner l'ensemble des renseignements à jour. The partnership involved in the review process is not an endorsement or commitment, but rather provides an opportunity to work together to consider all updated information. Je remercie les chefs pour ces échanges constructifs qui ont contribué à orienter l'élaboration de ce processus. I thank the chiefs for the constructive and insightful dialogue, which has helped to guide the development of this process, and look forward to continuing these conversations throughout the review period. Waliwan, Walalin, thank you, merci. I will now turn things back to the Premier for final remarks.
Je vais être clair. Cet examen de 5 mois permettra d'évaluer le rôle potentiel du gaz naturel dans l'avenir du Nouveau-Brunswick. Aucun résultat n'est déterminé à l'avance. Il ne s'agit pas de donner le feu vert pour commencer à forer. Il s'agit d'un examen approfondi et réfléchi, ainsi qu'une conversation avec les Néo-Brunswickois. I want to be clear. This 5-month review will examine the potential role of natural gas in New Brunswick's future, and there is no predetermined outcome. This is not a green light to get drills in the ground. It's a deliberate, thorough review and a conversation with New Brunswickers. In terms of timelines, over the coming months, we will be engaging directly with New Brunswickers to share the information that the working groups will gather and hear how they feel about this potential development. We are committed to making a final decision about whether we will go ahead in January of next year. We're committing today to update you every month about how this review is progressing. We know there is a lot of work ahead of us in determining whether the science and technology is good enough to give us confidence in safety, and finding out if this development is worth it in terms of the revenue and benefits and securing New Brunswick's place in a rapidly shifting global landscape. We need that security now more than ever, with Trump forcing us to find new partners and new opportunities beyond the U.S. New Brunswick has what the world wants, and we are committed to doing this work responsibly. In order to continue making historic investments in healthcare, in education, and other public services that your family depends on, that New Brunswickers depend on, we need to leave no stone unturned. We need to review the development of natural gas in New Brunswick starting today. Merci beaucoup. I'll now open it up to questions.
We will now proceed to questions from members of the media. Each reporter will be permitted 1 question and 1 follow-up. You have the right to pose your question in the official language of your choice. Nous allons maintenant procéder aux questions des journalistes. Chaque journaliste aura droit à une question, puis une suivie. Vous avez le droit de poser votre question dans la langue officielle de votre choix. We'll start online with Andrew Waugh from Post Media.
Sorry, was that me?
Yes, that's you.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, the translator was talking over. So thanks for that. So Premier, we know the Q1 numbers are coming out tomorrow. We know they're bad. What role is the government's overspending taking in thinking about this review?
What government is responding to with this review is a change around the world. We've seen this with the relationship that different countries are having with each other, with what's been happening in the Ukraine and in Russia, and now what's happening with the U.S. and their tariffs, as well as with our new trade relationships with different countries all over the world. The world is shifting, and our economy has been under significant pressure. New Brunswickers are experiencing this every day. They're finding it hard to pay the bills because of the rising costs of groceries and other things. And we are doing our best to deliver on our commitments to ensure every New Brunswicker has access to the kind of primary care that they deserve. But healthcare isn't free. We need to make sure that we have an economy that is producing the kind of good-paying jobs that'll help New Brunswickers live comfortably here. We need to make sure that that economy is producing the kind of revenues that can support the government in delivering services that New Brunswickers deserve. And to have a growing economy, you have to have the right energy infrastructure. At a time when energy security is top of mind, when Canada is striving to be an energy superpower, when our allies are looking for natural gas, when we're dependent on the U.S. for our natural gas, it's time to look at the conditions on the moratorium and to determine whether this is something that is in the best interest of New Brunswickers and our future.
How do you feel personally about this? Because, you know, while you're in opposition, you described this as yesterday's technology. You said nobody wants this. You were very, very clear that fracking was not something that was going to restart if you were elected. So how are you feeling right now, given the promises that you made previously and what you've just announced?
That's a good question, Andrew. How I feel right now is that times have changed, and that New Brunswickers are under a lot of pressure, and that New Brunswick is under pressure from Trump with the new 50% tariffs that he just put in place, from a shifting landscape, from a demand for energy that has exceeded our forecasts. New Brunswickers are looking for more and more energy. New Brunswick businesses are looking for more and more energy, and we need all of the different types of energy products that are available to us. That's why we're looking at the Mactaquac Dam refurbishment. That's why we're looking at new nuclear power options. That's why we're collaborating regionally with Nova Scotia and PEI, building those kinds of interties and relationships to make sure that we can provide New Brunswickers what they need and New Brunswick businesses what they need in order to have the kind of economy that can pay for what I committed to New Brunswickers, which was to get them primary care, to make sure that they had access to a nurse practitioner or a doctor close to home that could give them that preventative care for them and their family. And to do that, we need to make sure that we have an economy that produces the kind of activity that will pay for those nurse practitioners and doctors. And we see a global dynamic, a shift in relationships, and energy. We see our allies in Germany and Poland who are looking for natural gas. The only responsible thing to do at this point in time is to revisit the conditions of the moratorium to determine if this is something that can benefit New Brunswickers or not.
Thank you. Jacques Poitras, CBC.
Hi. Is there a private sector proponent that you've been talking to that has a specific proposal that they're ready to move ahead on if this review does come up with a green light? And if so, who is it?
No, you're, I think, a few steps ahead. This review is to determine whether we want to pursue natural gas development or not, and so there is not a proponent involved.
I'd like to ask about the First Nations rights, interests, and priorities being considered. I see the word consent does not appear here. What is the threshold for determining or considering that, for coming to a conclusion on that part of the review? Does it require unanimity among chiefs? Is there some other threshold?
Our government has been working since before day one on rebuilding relationships with First Nations that are based on respect and understanding and dialogue. And since the first day that we took power, we started those conversations with First Nations about recognizing their rights and ensuring their involvement in the work that affects this land. So we started having conversations specifically about natural gas development with First Nations chiefs a number of months ago. We've had a few different conversations with them on the best process forward. And that's what informed the development of this review. Everyone has questions to be answered. New Brunswickers have questions to be answered. Certainly we as government have questions, and so do First Nations communities and chiefs, to understand what are the impacts. What are the impacts to First Nations rights through this process? What are the impacts to water and air and the environment? What are the impacts to communities, to jobs, to investment in our economy? All of those questions are going to be answered through this process with a leadership table that's been established with First Nations chiefs, with a technical working group that's been established with First Nations representatives, and with the other working groups that I described, so that come January, all of us will have the information that will inform a decision-making process. And so we're going to continue to do what we've done, base these conversations in respect and understanding, collaborate and talk, and understand each other's point of view in order to inform the final decision that our government will take.
Thank you. Frédéric Camerano, Radio-Canada.
Merci. Monsieur le ministre des Ressources naturelles, je reviens sur ce que vous avez dit. Vous avez dit, si ce n'est pas sécuritaire, on ne va pas le faire. Est-ce que vous êtes capable de définir ce qui est sécuritaire? Où est-ce qu'on trace la ligne entre ce qui l'est et ce qui ne l'est pas?
Je pense que je peux dire que, selon moi, ça c'est le but de ce processus ici. Le but de ce processus est d'obtenir l'information sur les questions de la santé, les questions environnementales. Il y a les autres juridictions, les autres provinces où on a une body of work où on peut obtenir la bonne information. Mais je voudrais être clair. Ce processus est vraiment ouvert. On doit avoir confiance qu'on peut le faire sécuritaire, de protéger notre environnement et la santé des New-Brunswickois et les New-Brunswickoises.
Puis, je voulais savoir aussi, Madame la Première ministre, est-ce qu'il y a des éléments qui vous portent à croire que les environnementalistes et les Premières Nations ont une position qui ont évolué depuis 2014, que leur rapport par rapport au gaz naturel a changé depuis ce temps-là?
Oui, il y a beaucoup de choses qui ont changé depuis 2014. La technologie, les informations, l'économie et clairement la situation globale et notre situation ici à Nouveau-Brunswick par rapport à nos relations avec les États-Unis et même la situation au Canada avec notre rôle dans le monde et qu'est-ce qu'on a besoin de faire. Alors, il y a plusieurs développements d'information, de technologie, de réalité économique et réalité sociale qui fait que c'est le temps de faire un revue qui est compréhensif et qui inclut les Néo-Brunswickois et toutes les perspectives pour déterminer les impacts environnementaux, les impacts économiques, la participation, clairement, des Premières Nations, comme la ministre a dit, qui sont intéressés à participer dans cette revue pour recevoir les réponses à leurs questions aussi. Alors, on a trouvé que c'est la seule chose à faire pour être un gouvernement responsable, c'est d'évaluer les conditions.
Thank you. Alexandre Boudreau, Acte Nouvelles.
Bonjour. J'aimerais savoir comment va...
On peut pas
Désolé.
t'entendre.
J'aimerais savoir... Excuse-moi. Oui, désolé. Je m'entends en double. Par rapport au deuxième pilier, est-ce que... comment est-ce que vous allez déterminer s'il y a suffisamment de ressources à extraire? Est-ce qu'il va y avoir un examen du sol, des thumper trucks, par exemple? J'aimerais savoir s'il va y avoir de l'exploration.
Il y a du travail à faire, clairement, pour déterminer pas seulement c'est quoi les ressources, mais est-ce que c'est accessible d'une façon économique. Alors, on parle avec le gouvernement fédéral et le département NRCan, c'est quoi en français? Ressources naturelles Canada. Parce qu'ils ont de l'information qui peut nous aider. On a de l'information de la compagnie qui fait le développement de gaz naturel au Nouveau-Brunswick aujourd'hui, de leur travail et de leur impact et leur information. Et on va travailler avec les professionnels des universités et d'autres pour déterminer comment trouver les réponses à nos questions de la nature de la ressource et comment peut-être ça peut être développé, avec quelle technologie et à quel point pour déterminer si là on peut calculer les bénéfices et on peut voir les impacts environnementaux aussi.
Votre suivi, Alexandre?
J'aimerais aussi savoir, le moratoire interdit spécifiquement... Oui. Le moratoire interdit spécifiquement la fracturation hydraulique. J'aimerais savoir si vous êtes ouvert à lever le moratoire et aussi, est-ce qu'il est possible d'extraire du gaz de schiste sans faire de la fracturation hydraulique? Autrement dit, est-ce qu'il serait possible de développer cette industrie-là sans avoir à lever le moratoire?
Bien, à ce point, notre processus, c'est de déterminer et d'évaluer les conditions du moratoire avec un focus sur ces 5 piliers. Alors, une des piliers, vous avez vu, c'est la science, la technologie et l'environnement. C'est quoi les technologies qui existent aujourd'hui? Peut-être différents qui existaient en 2012, 13, 14. Qu'est-ce qui se passe aujourd'hui avec les technologies? Comment est-ce que ça fonctionne? C'est quoi les impacts aujourd'hui sur l'air, sur l'eau, sur les animaux, sur l'environnement et tout l'écosystème? Alors, cette revue des conditions du moratoire ne sont pas spécifiques sur une technologie. Ils regardent toutes les technologies pour en savoir est-ce qu'il y en a une qui fonctionnera d'une façon sécure pour nous autres, d'une façon économique pour nous autres ou non? Alors, on va regarder toutes les technologies possibles pour déterminer les bénéfices, les enjeux, les impacts de chaque qui existe, qui aura une relation avec notre ressource comme il est.
Nick Moore, CTV.
Thank you. Kind of an extension of a question that was asked earlier, just about the first pillar there in consultations with First Nations. What was their reaction when you brought this to them on Monday? And again, just on the question of consent, is this a matter where if this working group ultimately comes with the decision that this is something that they don't want, reject, does that stop all the other pillars after that?
Well, just a point of clarification, we didn't bring it to them on Monday. We've had ongoing discussions over the last months, and obviously it's you'll have to ask the chiefs also on how they feel about development of this new natural or this resource. But what the indication that they've given us is that they're supportive of the review process. So I think the chiefs are very interested in learning about the opportunity, understanding the benefits, and also learning about the impacts that come with the development of this resource. So the discussions will be ongoing over the next 5 months, and we've put in place a leadership table, and they are going to play a pivotal role in feeding the information as we go forward.
And Premier Minister Herron, is there any information coming about this explosives factory near Baldoon? It's been seemingly confirmed, but we have not heard anything directly as of late from the provincial government on this.
I believe there's a company that's interested in that project, the company Nalgex, that we have had some meetings with, but the project hasn't progressed further than conversation at this point.
Mike Landry, All New Brunswick.
Yes, Premier Holt, I was just going back to comments you made at CME event back in March, where you had said that if you had $10 in your pocket and 10 people to work with, you were going to put all of that into mining, which you said you could move quickest on and get the most bang for the buck on. And that wasn't the case when it came to natural gas. I'm wondering, what has changed on that front, and what of potentially diluting the province's efforts in the mining front?
I appreciate that question very much, Mike, because we have been really encouraged by the results that we've seen on the mining side. Under Minister Herron's leadership, I asked him to tackle this opportunity because New Brunswick has the critical minerals that the world needs. 21 of 34 critical minerals exist in this province, and we have a rich history in mining that goes back centuries, actually. Like we've been mining here in New Brunswick before New Brunswick existed. And so Minister Herron and his team moved quickly to put a critical minerals strategy in place. We then developed a modern mining act that was passed through the legislature in the last session. And we have seen the returns with the purchase of the Caribou mine by Canadian Copper, with the interest in Lake George mine that's been taken out by Agnico Eagle. We are seeing more claims in this province than ever before, more people exploring for minerals, more companies exploring for minerals than ever before, more investment being made in this province in minerals than ever before. So the investment of time and energy that we put in to getting the most out of the resources that we have in minerals is paying off. And now, as per the conversation that we've just had, we see the way the world is shifting in terms of energy. We see what Canada is striving to do and what our allies are looking for. We see a dependence on the United States that has never made me more uncomfortable. And we see New Brunswickers looking for energy and asking for it to be affordable and for it to help them have good paying jobs here and support their businesses and their economy. And so we will continue to drive the mineral opportunity because it is a key part of our economic development strategy. If we're going to grow our economy by 10% as the goal that we've set in our ambitious economic development plan, critical minerals are a significant part of this. If we want to create the conditions for multiple companies to grow, whether that's in defense or advanced manufacturing, whether that's our incredible producers of food and fish, our agriculture and aquaculture sectors, all of those companies are looking for reliable, affordable energy, and we need to figure out whether the assets that we have under the ground here in New Brunswick can be developed safely, can be developed economically, and whether that is a piece of the puzzle that New Brunswick should lock into place for its future. So we will continue forward with critical minerals. The team will not be deluded or distracted by this work in answering the question of whether we should proceed with natural gas development or not.
There was also at CME, you also discussed the LNG export in relation to possible supply needs to see that happen. And we haven't talked about LNG in relation to this review. So I was hoping to get either you, Premier, or Minister Herron on that front of how this could play into the LNG facility. And you had previously said it would be easier and quicker to just extend the pipeline rather than develop our own natural resources. So I'm wondering as well what's changed there.
Yeah, it is true that 400 kilometers of pipeline might be easier and quicker, but it depends on a number of factors that are outside of our control here in New Brunswick. In St. John, we have an asset in the LNG terminal. It's an asset that's used today to receive gas but it is not fully utilized or operational. So it's an asset that we consider when we look at all of the ways that New Brunswick can play a role in Team Canada, all of the ways that New Brunswick can play a role in what's the shift that's happening around the world with our allies, with the new trade relationships that we're trying to build. And we look here at home at the challenges New Brunswickers are facing with the cost of living, with accessing the healthcare that they deserve. We look at the assets that we have here in New Brunswick, and we're asking ourselves, with New Brunswickers in a way that's really transparent, is this natural gas an asset that could be developed safely or not, that could yield benefit or not? Those are important questions that I believe it's responsible, it's on the government to work with the public to answer those questions and determine whether this is something we move forward with or not, conscious of all of the other pieces of the puzzle, the other assets that are around us.
Thank you. David Murdoch, Global News.
Hi there. Today you emphasised meaningful partnerships with Indigenous communities for resource projects, yet local leaders say consultations for this, the munitions factory that was announced, are only in the infancy stage. How does handing over 1,500 acres of public land before doing deep consultation align with the partnership model you promised today?
Well, just a point of clarification, we haven't handed over 1,500 acres of government land, and conversations have been happening with First Nations in the north and communities in the north about the potential of a project that is in its infancy.
So to follow up on that, if the First Nations formally object to hosting this explosive plant on Crown land, does your new strategy give them the right to say no, or is this deal already locked in?
There is no deal in place. There is no deal locked in, just to be clear. There are conversations happening about a potential project, but there has been nothing established as far as a deal is concerned. Because of exactly what you say, we have to do serious due diligence on projects like this and evaluate the community impacts, the economic impacts, the environmental impacts. We have to determine the benefits for not only Beldoon and that community, but we have Upjiganjik and Pabino that are interested in those conversations about development. So this is even before the earliest stages. This is conversation. There is no contract. There is no commitment on our government's part. We are exploring an opportunity in its earliest stages, and we are including the communities and the First Nations leadership in and around the potential area in question.
Eli Ritter, the Canadian Press.
When it comes to this review, you talked about this being important to protecting our sovereignty, that sort of conversation. Just break it down for maybe the average New Brunswicker. How would maybe bringing natural gas out of the ground widespread help protect our sovereignty and secure our autonomy?
Right now, New Brunswick is dependent on the U.S. for our natural gas. So the natural gas that is going to New Brunswickers' homes and businesses today is coming from the U.S., mostly from the Marcellus Shale development in the U.S. And given the state of our relationship with the U.S., given the trade war that they're in, the possibility of that pipeline being stopped or of that gas ceasing to flow has become more real than it might have been in the past. And that puts New Brunswick in a very vulnerable position. We do not want to be dependent on the U.S. for things that are critical to New Brunswickers, to heating their homes and to supporting their businesses. And we know that here in New Brunswick, we are looking at a looming energy shortage. And we need to make sure that we can generate the kind of energy that we need for our people and for our businesses. So we have to look at all of the options out there. We want to form the kind of partnerships that we can rely on, like we're doing with Nova Scotia and PEI, who are also looking to New Brunswick to be a partner and to help deliver them energy security with our sources of generation. They've certainly expressed interest in what we're talking about here today, as they have with their nuclear project, as they have with the proposal on the Mactaquac Dam. But now is not the time for New Brunswick to be dependent on the U.S. for anything, and certainly not the kind of energy that supports our businesses and our homes.
Right, and just to follow on that, I mean, 5-month review, there's no proponent yet. Let's say you say yes after 5 months, you kind of open it up. Maybe there's a proponent, there's more people taking gas out of the ground. That could be, years from now. Trump might be out of office by that point. Is it still important to do that, even if there's no impact for years for getting natural gas out of the ground?
I think self-sufficiency is important. I think New Brunswickers are looking for that across a variety of fronts. We want to be food secure here. We want to be energy secure in New Brunswick. We want to be in a position where we have the resources to deliver for New Brunswick families, whether that's deliver the roads that they drive on or the healthcare that they rely on or the education that their kids and our future depends on. And so knowing that we can do that ourselves without dependence on others is a concept that's been really top of mind. We saw that, with food security and health security through COVID. We're now seeing the threats around energy security because of the demand. And so before this, we have been looking at Beldoon, looking at new nuclear, looking at significant expansion of our renewable energy. We put on 650 more megawatts of wind power being proposed. We are doing everything we can to make sure that we have a balanced, resilient, and redundant energy system, because New Brunswickers expect that when they turn the lights on, the lights will come on. And that when it's really cold in February, they're going to have the kind of heat that keeps their family safe and secure. We need to be sure that we can provide that to them in a way that is sustainable and affordable and as environmentally friendly as possible. We have to bundle all of those things together. And so for a long time, we've looked to Quebec, to the US as partners to support our energy mix. But we have less and less faith that the US is a partner that we want to have in that mix. And we need to take active steps to protect our energy security today.
Alex Allen, Acadia Broadcasting, last question and follow-up.
Yeah, I just was curious a little bit more with what you're talking about, and this is more to Susan Holt, just with kind of protecting more of more of the food sector, I guess to say. I'm curious just what support you guys are thinking on trying to prepare for New Brunswick's agriculture sector then, since farmers are probably going to be facing higher costs and market pressures from these tariffs.
Yeah, that's a great question, Alex. Thank you for that. We have been working really closely with the agriculture sector on an agricultural growth strategy that's been in development for quite a number of months now, and that includes investment in the sector to support productivity, to support the adoption of new technologies, to support access to new markets and places where they can take the best food in the world that is grown here in New Brunswick and get it to new countries and new places. There's infrastructure required to do that, so we've been shoring up things like our port infrastructure. A good example is the cold storage facility that's been developed on the wharf at the Port of St. John that's going to allow us to move more food to customers around the world. And so there's a constant engagement happening with our agricultural producers with what they need in order to find those new customers, to get more productive and more efficient here in the face of what we see coming from the US. And then our government also has supports put in place through Working NB and through Opportunities New Brunswick to support employees and to support companies that are experiencing direct tariff impacts.
Thank you. No follow-up.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes today's press conference. Merci à tous. Voilà ce qui met fin à notre conférence de presse aujourd'hui.